I didn't read this chapter, Grant.
I thought you were going to say that. You just had this look of like, and then you're like, how can I spin this? Those would be a great opportunity to just say, let's see what happens when I don't read the chapter.
Phil Phails at Philosophy.
Well, no, I've thought about this for a while.
Okay.
Like how to spin this, as you say. I took a couple running starts at this chapter.
It's a tough chapter.
And I actually watched videos, David Chalmers speak, his TED Talk.
Right.
About consciousness and the hard problem.
Yeah.
Right? What he says is a hard problem. I took running starts at it, and I didn't get deep enough into it where I want to... We can talk about it a little bit, but I'd like to do maybe a recap on the first 3 chapters and maybe talk about philosophy, where we've gotten like a midway kind of check-in and talk maybe a little bit about it. How do you feel about that?
Well, I want to hear what your experience of digging into the videos like. It was like a start and then a stop. Was it just hard to get through? Was it hard to get your head around? Was it hard to care? Like what was the experience there?
Hard to know, right? There's a lot of life stuff that's been going on for me.
Okay.
But I did take authentic runs at the literature.
Right.
Where I'm going to read this. And traditionally what I've done with these chapters is I've read them as quickly as possible the first time and not taken any notes. Mm-hmm. I've just read it. And then the second time I go through, I read it and take detailed notes. Mm-hmm. And then the third time I read it, I kind of, it's some version of the two. Like, do I match up the notes with what I read? Did I miss anything? Where am I at? This time I couldn't get through the quick read. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's because of the material or because of what's going on in my life, or...
So one thing I'll say that I think hit me reading this, and it was really on my first read, and I think if I can...
Let's dial the listeners or the audience into this. This is the Philosophy's Big Questions. What's the subtitle?
Comparing Buddhist and Western Approaches.
And the author is?
The editor is Stephen Emmanuel, and then we were going to talk today about can consciousness be explained?
Can consciousness be explained? We're going to talk about it a little bit, but not. I want to have a full episode on it when I've gotten to.
So you want to come back to this?
I do want to come back to it.
Yeah. So I don't even want to read this sentence because it's difficult to process the sentences in this chapter.
You felt that way too.
Absolutely. And I don't want to just get on camera and totally aggressively attack Dan Arnold, because I think he's actually using a conceptually sophisticated, way of presenting his ideas that once I got my head around how he was putting words together into sentences, I could process, but it took me, when I started reading this, I found myself sentence by sentence backing up and going, what did he just say in that sentence?
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily the conceptual aspects of it, although there is, it's really the way he puts words on top of each other. And there were moments where the structure of the sentence seemed to be constructing, say, a complete clause, but it sounded like it was just a phrase, and I couldn't figure out where the subject of the sentence was. And yeah, if I were an editor, I would rewrite a little more.
I'm relieved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And so I think his writing style is a little more obtuse than it needs to be, and that makes it difficult. I think understanding what the hard problem of consciousness is, on one level, it seems really simple. On another level, its simplicity makes it harder to get your head around. So that's conceptually difficult. And then he's working with what I find to be 3 of the more interesting Buddhist philosophers.
Dharmakirti,
Vasubhandu, and how do you say
Dinaga?
Dinaga, yeah, Dinaga.
Which it seems like Dinaga and Dharmakirti are together.
Yeah, Dharmakirti is a commentator on Dinaga.
Okay.
And then Vasubhandu precedes both of those.
And I couldn't find a lot of great videos, a lot of content on YouTube.
There is, yeah, because there's some of the Buddhist philosophers that Western philosophers like the most, because they are so conceptually intricate, because they're making very complex deductive arguments, but they're not ones that you see a lot of popularity around in terms of popular Buddhism in the United States. Right? You know, because
Like with Nagarjuna,
right, yeah,
I found a ton of stuff on Nagarjuna,
Right.
and I could really get into it. Oh, he is maybe one of the forefathers of Mahayana Buddhism, so it makes sense. We've got this kind of leader
right.
of Mahayana. I don't know where Dharmakirti and Dinaga fall in,
They're a bit later. Like if you look at their dates,
but they're still Mahayana.
yeah,
like,
they are. They're like 5th, 6th, 7th century of the Common Era. So they're coming into the game. You know, I guess what would that be parallel to the middle of the Byzantine Empire? That kind of
What's
time.
Byzantine? Who's that?
That's the Roman Empire in the East after
Okay.
the Roman Empire collapses. So like the late Roman Empire, early Dark Ages, kind of. That's about the period we're looking at. But they're tough too, right? So there's these layers of toughness, right?
The author seems to approach
writer
this
is
in
a
an
bit of-
obtuse way.
Yeah.
The people he's covering tend to be
Right. And-
more difficult, a more thick subject
Right,
matter, or the way they're talking
and the
about
way
it.
and some of the arguments that, like Vasubhandu's argument about our experience of the world turns on this discussion of what happens to us when we're in the hell realms.
I didn't get there.
What we're actually experiencing, which itself is just a weird thing to try
Yeah.
to get your head around. Because I think when my students encounter that, because I do read Vasubhandu with my students, they're just like, some Buddhist religious nut talking about hell realms. Like they just see hell
What
realms
is it?
and they don't understand.
We haven't gotten to that.
conceptually, like why it actually matters. And yeah, so
We haven't gotten, or I haven't really learned a lot about, in Buddhism, there's realms,
right.
which I haven't gotten to yet. I kind of feel like I might be low-key in Scientology, and I haven't learned about
You haven't
Lord.
learned about the operational thetans and the 747.
Yeah, and it's like Buddhism's about to turn on a dime when I'm getting the 10,000th hour. 10,000th hour, it's like, and then the aliens came and
right.
these realms. I'm
Anyway,
kidding,
so
but
yeah, so that's that. So no, yeah, definitely
we're gonna give me another 2
understand.
weeks to talk about that.
sure. So what do you want to talk about?